7:50, so we'll call the Board of Assessors meeting to order.
Did we hear from,
Molly, would you like an agenda?
No, it's okay, I'll do it live.
Okay.
Thank you.
did we hear from Steve?
Yeah, he's not coming tonight. He's busy, I assume, with selections.
Oh, okay.
Had he contacted you, John, or?
No, he responded to an email to everybody,
Oh, okay.
I think.
I didn't notice.
Was it Jessica's email? I think it was.
It was not long ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I ran out for a quick dinner and I came back and Jessica said, there's an email here, Steve's not coming, and
Yes.
I didn't even look at it.
We're
I
going
just took her word
to
for it.
distribute the minutes from,
John has them
we
already.
have them already.
Yeah.
Any comments on the minutes from April the 1st? Would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to accept the minutes from the April 1st meeting
I second.
as drafted.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Vote is 4 to accept the minutes. The second agenda item is the review and the update from Director Morgans with regards to the overall staffing changes. If we could refer to the memo that was sent by Louise Miller, Town Administrator, outlining the assessing department staffing. And then Bruce, if you'd like to share any information from the meeting that you and Kathleen Buckley, the Human Resource Manager, had along with Louise Miller.
Yeah. So this is a pretty good summary right here of everything. We have Matt starting a week from today.
His name again?
Matt, did she write his name in here?
No.
No. So he's currently, I think he's even still working, one of the residential assessors in Framingham.
And his name again?
Matt Lanefsky. You asked me to spell his last name.
That's
I don't
okay.
have it with me, but begins with an L, ends with an SKI. Yeah, so he's starting. Jessica will be on vacation next week, but then she's coming back. So that the two of them will have 4 days together, which is great.
Okay.
She's got a whole list of things to go over with him, so that will be great. The Savitri position, if I can call it that for the
Excuse me,
moment.
Before we leave
Oh, yeah,
that position
sure.
a moment, as I understand, according to this, the whole job description has changed.
Not for him,
Oh, not for that one?
no.
Oh, okay.
There were just a couple of little tweaks, and those went through personnel
No,
and
but
everything.
No, but you're saying that there are tweaks as far as assignments, or
We cleaned up language, like got the word typewriter out of his description. We don't want to make the guy have to work a typewriter.
okay, that's good. No, I thought they were reviewing Okay.
No, his was fine. So that was approved a couple of months ago already.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the department assistant Savitri position is being significantly, I'd say, overhauled.
Okay. By whom?
So I gave, Savitri and I worked on this months ago,
Good.
on a few different occasions. And I gave that work to Kathleen, who has been working on incorporating it all in. We had 2 different documents, so she's been working on that. And the plan here is outlined pretty well, that has to go before the union, it has to go before the personnel board, and this board, and if all those things go well, the job will be posted sooner rather than later. We're talking May something or other,
Yeah.
it'll be posted.
Sure.
If not, it'll be pushed off to the middle of June,
Right.
if there's any holdup along the way for any reason. So that's where that one is. And then for Jessica, that's a longer, slower process and not as critical. We have Dave Veluti out doing inspections for us now. He's already done a bunch. He took a vacation day and spent half of it here, which was great last week. One day he had something he had to do personally in the morning, and then he called me and told me he was spending the rest of the day here. So that's good. I will be offering extra time to Matt next week once he starts, by rule. If he wants to do Friday afternoons and or Saturdays, he has to be offered that, and we have plenty of work, so that would be welcome.
Bruce, can I ask
Yeah.
the reclassification? Is that, like, I guess, what is the direction or the proposal? I mean, and is it into a different kind of group within the union? Is it a different tiering? Can you just maybe shed light on kind of what moves are being proposed for that position?
Yeah. So some of the work that Jessica has been doing includes the administrative part of the chapter properties, the I&Es, the forms of list, the 3 ABC properties. That is going to be shifted into the other position, the department assistant position. And even the exemptions are job description wise have been with the Jessica position, even though she's never done them. Those are going into that position officially, even though Savitri's done them for really
But
since
that's
she
moving over
started.
some of the positions that were wrongly put someplace else.
Right. So that's
But you're also moving, that change also moves some existing responsibilities that went with Jessica's current position into the assistant's position.
that's correct.
Okay.
No, not into the department assistant, right? Not the assistant assessor, the
No, the
department
apartment
assistant.
assistant.
Right. That's right. So some of it is just
Yeah.
fixing what's been going on for years.
Okay, and so at
Some of it
this
is
time, yeah, so it's kind of realigning some of the tasks with the roles that have been doing them. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
but my only thing is the, just to make it easy for me,
Yeah.
is the Savitri position,
Yeah.
the current job description, is some things being taken away from that?
I don't believe anything's being taken away from that. No. It's, so what Savitri and I did was we worked on it so that it actually reflected what she does.
Oh, okay.
And then I went over with her the addition of those 4 pieces
Okay.
of administrative work. They're really not very big
Okay.
pieces of work. And I went over with her, this is going back a few months. I said, what would it be like if those were added to your job description? And she said that they could be absorbed in easily.
Okay, excellent. Good, good.
Yeah.
She would
so
know.
She would know. And because she's helped and done them in the past. And Zach, to answer your question, so there is discussion about this being moved to a the different union that the rest of the department is in. It's that AFSCME, it's that great word there. It's 1 and 2.
Yeah.
That the more clerically oriented position has been a 2, union 2, and the thought is that it be proposed as a 1.
Okay.
And it provides for a lot of latitude in pay.
Okay.
The other position is very limited without overhauling the.
Got it. And at this point in time, there's 4 FTEs in the department. All of those are going to be posted and filled?
Well, when it comes to Jessica's job, there's ongoing discussion of whether that be a half or a full.
Okay.
I'd say that's a work in progress over a more extended time period here.
Okay. So that's the only nuance that's not reflected in this note.
Right, she didn't get into that detail.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's definitely been discussed.
When I look upon the positions Jessica's and the assistant director's position, or the assistant assessor's position, I would broadly classify what we hope that their responsibilities are professional.
Yep.
And broadly, although it covers a myriad of tasks and requires a great deal of patience and talent, Savitri positions were basically clerical,
Mm-hmm.
but varied and sometimes very complex, but clerical.
Mm-hmm.
People we bring in or brought into that are brought into this staff at the professional level, I will feel comfortable that the right professional people will be found, and they'll have to get adapted to doing things as we do it here in Wayland. My concern is the time it's going to take to prepare someone to do the tasks that Savitri has been doing. I see a lot of training required there. And I wouldn't expect someone we're hiring to come in and be able to do all of those tasks. So.
Good concern, yeah. Savitri, I was asked to give Kathleen, our HR manager, Savitri's phone number. She's contacting Savitri and asking her how much she would be interested in helping train a new person. Filling in, so Savitri's schedule, I never got it exactly, but she's currently away till May 8th. She's back for 2 or 3 weeks. She's going to be asked if she would be willing or like to work some number of hours during that time. Okay. Then she's going away for another 2 or 3 weeks, and then coming back for another month or something. Would she like to do some hours then? And then she's back in, I believe, early August, kind of done with her 3 vacations. And would she like to, when we hire a new person, be involved in training that person? So that's being put out there momentarily.
That's being negotiated. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, and we have no idea who we're going to attract with a new job description and maybe at least a little bit higher pay scale. We might get somebody who knows exemptions like the back of their hand, which is huge. They won't know anything about the circuit breaker, we can almost guarantee that. But you never know, we might get somebody who's pretty good at a lot of these things.
Now, Bruce, do you
Yes.
have any concerns over the challenges that you're going to have in the next couple of months for the staffing?
Yes.
Well,
So good. So you just the last piece here. I have also spoken. If Savitri is not on board to come back in mid-May and again in mid-June and again in August, that if Kathleen gets an answer from her that she's going to be very limited or not at all, then we're going to go to a temp agency immediately for some coverage. Just so that we have more ability to handle the phones and the counters.
At least they answer the phone.
Yeah, you know, the motor vehicle excise second commitment bills went out late last week, and boy, you know, today it was nonstop. But Jessica and I were nonstop trying to keep up with the phone and the counter. It was quite a busy time. So just to have some coverage, so we have lunch breaks and all. So the attempt, thank you, Susan, is like that process is waiting to happen should Savitri not, and even if Savitri's, you know, it depends on what Savitri says she wants to do. But I think even if she comes forward to spend some number of hours in the middle of May, the middle of June, and back in August, I think we still are going to want a temp. Whether it's 12 hours a week or 16 hours a week or something to that effect. So those two things are on Kathleen's plate right now.
Any other questions from the board members for Bruce with regards to the staffing? Okay, then we'll move on to the excise warrant commitments.
For which there is not one. Right?
There is none.
Right.
3 ABC application filings.
So we had one filing that was from the Whalen Rod and Gun Club. They have been filing every year, and they have been denied for at least like 3 years in a row for this, just by board vote. There's no form to be signed or anything. So they filed again. I don't know why. They seem perfectly fine getting their 61B status reduction, but in came an application. I will speak with their attorney at some point why keep doing this, but they've done it 3 or 4 years in a row now since they've been in the 61B program. So I don't know why, but this goes back to when Ellen was still here, that the board just voted to deny and then send a very simple few sentence letter to them saying that the board voted on such and such a day to deny the 3 ABC application that was filed because anyway, I could just really lift the wording right from Ellen's letter, which I have.
So are you asking for any board action this evening?
A vote, yes. Simply to somebody to move and second and vote.
Do you have a copy of the letter?
I do in the office. I can run and get it if you want to see what it says.
Yeah, why don't we just read the
Sure.
same language?
Yeah.
Be
Well,
consistent.
could we do this? Why don't we defer this to the end, towards the end of the meeting, so if there's anything else that
Sure.
he needs to get,
Sure.
we can be a
Don't want me
little
running
more
back and forth?
concise.
Okay.
Now, we have a question. I have to ask the gentleman that's running the audio video.
Mhm.
We have on our agenda to enter into executive session at 8:10.
Right.
And he was going to,
I'm gonna go get him.
so why don't we do that
I
right
think
now?
he might,
Bruce?
that might
Yep.
be him right there.
Bobby?
I can't quite see him. So the 8:05,
For the
you
executive
do,
session.
but the 8:05 you're gonna skip that.
There is no 8:05 here.
This one right here.
Oh, yes, because if it's 8:10 and I don't know what his schedule is.
Okay,
We're not going to skip it, we're going to
come back.
come back to
Okay.
it, to the assistant tax collector bond concerns raised by the OA member, Steve Gostin, only because this gentleman's.
On
Will you be
schedule.
leaving us after you disconnect for the executive session?
Session, I leave the room and I'll wait.
Okay,
We'll go get him when we
okay,
wanna
very good.
move on to the next
Mhm.
items.
So- And Molly will come get you?
If I'm around.
Okay. Okay. So I'll make the motion I move that the BOA enter into executive session to effect the intentions of General Law, Chapter 59, Section 60, and General Law, Chapter 214, Section 1B, as permitted by Purpose 7 of GL, Chapter 38, Section 21A, to review and vote on statutory exemption applications for disabled veterans, seniors, surviving spouses, and minors. Review and vote on circuit breaker program applications. Review and vote on real estate abatement applications, and consider for approval the executive session minutes from April 1st pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Jason. Then I would ask for a roll call vote to go into executive session.
Jason, say-
Jason, yes.
Zach, yes.
John, yeah?
Susan, yes. And I invite by invitation Director of Assessing Bruce Morgan to continue with us in the executive session, and the board will reconvene in approximately 20 minutes for the purpose of returning to open session. We are now in executive.
I'll keep this just in case.
Okay. We declare that while in executive session, the board voted to approve 6 circuit breaker applications, 2 exemption applications, 1 circuit breaker application, and 11 abatement applications were denied, along with a denial for 5 circuit breakers. The board has also voted to approve the minutes of April 1st, but not to release them to the public. Okay, so then we will go back to our 805 agenda item, the Assistant Tax Collector Bond concerns raised by Board of Assessor member Steve Goski. Attached with the agenda, we also included a number of emails that had gone back and forth between DLS Law, and also included were some emails that Steve had sent. Initially, Steve had sent just the responses from DLS Law. However, to get, I think, the full context of those answers, we needed to also include the emails from Steve and his questions and statements. So that's why that was included. From that, any comments from the board with regards to what was distributed?
Susan, can you recap? I know on occasion we've asked Steve to sometimes research or draft things.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, some of this correspondence seemed like it was it all kind of self-initiated, or was he on assignment?
Yeah. No, the emails that were sent to DLS Law were generated by Steve himself with no communication with the board. It was not part of an assignment or a directive that the board had passed along to Steve, but he was acting more or less on his own. Over the period of time, he has voiced some concerns that some of the opinions that had been given to the board from a number of people, as outlined in our previous minutes, were the town administrator, the town legal counsel, KP Law, along with DLS, Department of Local Services, and in addition to that, Department of Legal Services Law, which had 3 attorneys review some of his correspondence, and they all came back to the same opinion, and that was that the warrant that was signed by the board on February 11th of 2019 had in fact been done correctly. There was no need to amend that warrant that was signed by 3 board members. Jason had not been at that meeting, so Jason wasn't one of the 3 board members, but John, Zach, and myself had signed that. Steve had not. Then we had another warrant, the second warrant that was submitted, and there was some question on that, and again, the board, including Jason, at that point had signed that warrant. Steve again had withdrawn or did not agree to sign that. So A lot of this informational request from Steve that was exhibited in the emails going back and forth was in general his disapproval of the opinion that had been
Okay.
given by all of those bodies. In an email that I had sent to him, I explained that the board had not had this discussion, and that the board, those members that had signed off on the warrant, had a level of responsibility that they felt that they were comfortable with in doing so. So that's where we are right now. So from what I understand, our new tax collector, and this all revolved around the leaving of Zoe Pierce as tax collector, and then the assistant tax collector coming in to present those warrants. From what I understand, and in speaking with Louise Miller, town administrator, the new tax collector started April the 8th, and she was going to be bonded appropriately, and the selectmen would be sending to the Board of Assessors a letter of her appointment, so that all the correct paperwork would be in place. This meeting tonight was called rather abruptly because of the staffing concerns that we did have, and while we were having that meeting, also to address Steve's emails. So the Louise did not have available for the board at that point the paperwork regarding the town collector, but she had expressed to me that that would be available at the next meeting.
But he has started work already?
The tax collector has started work April the 8th.
Okay.
We've not had any excise warrants or commitments presented or to the Board of Assessors to act on as of right now. And just to kind of speak to the agenda item where we've had the excise warrant and commitment as more of a reoccurring agenda item, because the agenda has to be posted on Thursday for a meeting on Monday. It has in the past, because it's the state-generated warrant and commitment notification that we have no timeline, no advance notice, that to process that as quickly and as we can, we've had it on our agenda as excise warrant and commitment, so that we could take appropriate action and process them quickly and not have any time delays. So even though we may not act on them when it's in a posted agenda item, that is the reason for it being on the agenda. Steve had also mentioned to both Bruce and I that he didn't feel it was appropriate to have a standing excise warrant commitment on the agenda, even under those circumstances. However, there are other towns and communities that do have verbiage similar to that, and we can even expand on it going further if applicable, if the board chose to have those words.
And worst comes to worst, it can be put down under 48-hour notification item too.
Right. But basically, the intent was to process those warrants and commitments as quickly as possible. So, are there any other questions, concerns, comments on that agenda item?
No, I thank you for your response. Certainly felt similarly. And didn't know if this was the first time that the board has had to deal with this type of issue before, but.
This has, in fact, been the board's first time that we've dealt with this particular issue. Usually in the past, what has happened is the board members would either contact the director or most often contact the chair, whoever the chair might be, of their concerns. Ideally, it's the chair, because that way they're if there's several board members that might have the same concern, it can be channeled through the chair and then addressed with the director, as opposed to multiple board members addressing it with the director and taking up his time and resources for that. I thought it warranted a response, and that's why I included it in it, because I think there were some statements that were made by Steve representing some actions by the board, as far as, to paraphrase, arguing amongst ourselves when we had not yet met. So I just thought it was important that that be corrected. And we had not taken any action from the time that the Department of Legal Services had rendered an opinion. It was a Wednesday morning, and it was a Friday, the following Friday, so less than 48 hours that Steve was sending out a follow-up email. So I just thought it was important that I respond to Steve on that. I also want to let the board know, I feel that it's very important that we also respond to the DLS law, just to outline that the board has reviewed the emails, and the feeling of the board was, and whatever that feeling is, I think it's important to let the DLS law know that, it was one potential board member that may have appeared to be speaking on behalf of the board, but was potentially not the case. But that's why I also wanted to bring it to the board's attention, because I feel that I would like to respond, but I wanted to have the input of the board, so that when I responded to Ms. Hunt, who had written the email letters, it was the fact that the strength of the board, and this was what our feeling was. So I would like to see if there was any direction from the board that I can include in an email that I would like to send back to Ms. Hunt, because I think it's important. We've worked so hard as a board, as a department, and certainly as Bruce, as the director, to have very good working relationship with DLS, and I think it's important that we maintain that and advocate, for the residents of Wayland, and I want to keep us in that proper decorum, if you will. So I think, if I can have some direction from the board, I would like to send off an email to Patricia Hunt tomorrow.
Yeah, I think just explaining that it represents, just kind of, similar to Steve's article, where he says, it's his own opinion. It wasn't something that was produced by board vote, and just clarifying that.
And certainly didn't reflect the town that I would hope our board would really ever try and take.
Right, and that was,
Yeah, I mean, the positive, kind of working relationships are important. We've had to consult DLS in the past on a number of different issues. And I would say even, kind of the tone, with the town administration. Again, we need a positive working relationship.
Well, even to say that the thoughts expressed in that letter do not represent the thoughts, the tenor, the approach.
Lack of respect.
okay. I will formulate an email and send it to Bruce, and then he'll distribute it to all the board members. If there's nothing else on that subject, we'll move on. Topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of this meeting. I think we've touched upon everything. The only thing that I would like to make mention of is that the meeting was held here by direction of the town administrator, and who has expressed a desire that our board meetings happen here going forward, or in a more public place because of the confinement of the office. However, as we saw this evening, there's sometimes paperwork that is readily more accessible if we're in the assessing department office. But that's something I think the board will need to think about going forward. It just so happened that this room was available this evening because the Board of Selectmen are meeting in the large hearing room. Thoughts and concerns of board members, one of our final agenda items. Zach, anything?
We're gonna miss you.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, sincerely, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. John? Zach?
You set the bar.
Bruce? Thank you all very much. It's been a pleasure. 15 years have gone by.
Does Bruce need to get that one piece of paper?
Yes, he does. So we will have you go get that paper. Since we have no public, unfortunately, Molly has left us, but we have no public comment. We'll have Bruce get that paper, and then we'll be ready to adjourn for the election and town meeting.
And I just want to say that the next meeting will to be determined.
Very good.
I noticed in that letter from the town administrator, it actually says when we're meeting.
Yeah,
That was their meeting.
Pardon?
May 6th, no, it's in there that
Yeah.
that was our next meeting, May 6th.
Or
but-
our next meeting? I
Yeah.
read that as the personnel board. Personnel, oh.
Well, I don't know. I believe that'll be decided upon the needs of the office as determined by Bruce or whatever else comes up.
Okay, so this is an example of what we've done in the past for the 3 ABC application addressed to the Wayland Rod and Gun Club. What I'd like to do is just circulate this quickly for the board, just to have
Yeah, I
it.
think these were just attached. So I'm gonna need those. They weren't attached, they were just,
Right, that's
I
fine.
just grabbed and ran.
Could I give you this back? This, oh, these are minutes. I'll keep those. Those are the regular minutes.
Okay.
I looked quickly and,
Oh, right.
Yes. Yeah. There's no evidence of nothing, that anything has changed.
okay. Having reviewed the letter, would a board member like to make a motion?
I move that the Board of Assessors accept the recommendation of the director and deny the 3 ABC application filed by the Wayland Rod and Gun Club.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Zach, second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The vote is 4. Having said that, we're adjourning ahead of time tonight. So if we have a motion to adjourn,
So moved.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very, very much for
Yes, thank
staying.
you.